Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the UK session of TTR. It's good to have you with us. Ash coming with us very, very shortly. But first up, it's me, Jeff, and I'm going to take you through. Where will I start today? Good question. Let's try the news events, shall we? And Forex Factory is where we go for our news and have a look at the calendar. We're going to have a look at yesterday before we go into today and see exactly what transpired, because there was a bit of a move against the dollar, I see. Trying to work out the timing on that was probably the FOMC minutes, perhaps. There seemed to be a surge against the dollar at that point. Don't know that it was, it was certainly later than Carney talking, so I'm not sure what he said. Haven't looked at the FOMC meeting minutes either. So I'm a little bit in the dark, apart from it can't have been great for the US dollar, what was said in those minutes, or what was revealed by reading those minutes. Look, I guess no great surprises there, because we were expecting that to be a dovish statement. And to a certain degree it was, but the market didn't really react too much at the time. I guess now is the time that it has. We've also had our good friend Mr. Trump in meetings overnight with the senators, Democrats in particular. I believe that was a very short meeting where the Democrats stood up and said, we are not going to rubber stamp a wall, at which Mr. Trump stood up and said, well, we've got nothing to talk about, and left the meeting, as I understand it. Oh, my goodness, he's a character. There's no two ways about that. What have we got coming up today? Well, let's skip over the yellow news and the equivalent, I suppose, of the FOMC minutes will be coming out at 12:30 UK time. That is the ECB monetary policy meeting accounts. Deemed to be only moderate news. Interesting that they give the red to the US and the orange to the euro. Interesting. Then, of course, we've got a couple of FOMC members speaking. The Chair Powell at 5:45 p.m. I'll be sound asleep by then, I can assure you. And that's about it. There's not a whole lot happening today in terms of news. Let's take a little look at what the market thinks in the last 24 hours or so. And as I look across the board here, actually I'll go from 48 to 28 to 24 hours. I normally only use 48 when we're over the weekend. So let's have a look at the last 24 hours and see what the market is thinking. I guess you can say, apart from the pound, wow, which has gone backwards in the last 12 hours, I can definitely see dollar weakness across the board here, and yen strength. So pound weak, yen strong, dollar weak-ish. Maybe that's retracement time, although it looks weak against the yen and the Swissy, doesn't it? Very much so. Interesting. Let's see what that translates to in the charts. And I guess we'll go to the good news first. The good news being that the daily trade that I put in yesterday morning has kicked off, and we have had the breakout on the euro. That's what we were looking for. And we were trading this bar here. I'm sharing screen, I hope, yes. We're trading this bar here, and we were looking for the breakout of not only the range, but of this nice resistance trade line as well. Done that. We've smashed through TP1, which is great. Failed to get the TP2 as yet. Look, you would expect some consolidation, if not retracement, on that move of yesterday. And I don't really expect that this will go to TP2 easily, maybe not even today, before we do get a retracement. Perhaps back to the daily pivot, perhaps back to the trend line. Who knows? If you take the volatility on pound crosses at the moment into consideration and put it against the euro, then you probably can say, well, we can be back down here very quickly. And that's very true. And I have no argument with that. For that reason, I haven't left my stops at their first placement, which would have been under this candle. I actually moved my stops up to here, and that on the 4-hour chart coincides with the candle that took us into the move or into the breakout, and that's why I've just strategically, I suppose, placed it there under the big bar that did so. Look, that will mean if price does come back and take our stops, that look, I think we're just about at break even if that's the case, given that we've taken a third off at TP1. We've still got 2/3 of the trade left, and we're now at risk of, I think, 25 pips, where we've taken 35 off the table as our first take profit. If you're not in this already, look, there may well be another opportunity, but I would be looking for a retracement today, and daily pivot, I think, is the obvious one. If it gets beyond there, then the trade line or the trend line, and if it gets beyond there, then we might be looking at a reversal. So I'm hopeful that's not the case. And if we can find just a little bit of luck here, then we'll get onward and upward, and we'll actually get the move that has been so hard to find. Let me go back to yesterday's trade on pound yen, for instance, where we were looking for a similar move. We're looking for a similar breakout, and we traded here. We traded this bar here, and got a very, very quick TP1, but that's as far as it went, I'm afraid. TP1 as we hit this resistance trend line, which probably wasn't there at the time, but it is now, and we took off straight away back down to the 137.50-ish level, and that continues today and through today and into this pre-UK session.
I with you, mate. Just as a note.
G'day, mate.
I see it.
I'll be back with you in a tick.
No rush.
Through this one. Look, I did find an opportunity to get back into this today, into the long, that is, with following this big bullish engulfing bar. Look, I've completely disregarded that tail there. I know that's probably a folly, but my analysis always was that we're back inside this channel, and when we're back inside this channel after a bullish engulfing bar, then I'm looking for a significant higher low and a reversal bar, and that came here. So I was actually in front of my charts at the time, and I did place an order there, but alas, the market has deemed it inappropriate to go long on pound yen at this time, and the pound does appear to be weakening as I speak. That's interesting in and of itself, of course. Look, I wouldn't be terribly disappointed if we got to weekly pivot here and got another reversal bar. I'd still be looking to trade that long. So that will be my wish for, well, maybe not this candle, next 2 or 3 candles might present something to that accord. I know that Ash was looking to get short the FTSE. I wonder if that trade he placed yesterday got triggered. Did it, mate?
It certainly did, mate. Yes, we are in the FTSE short. There's already been some profit on this one, which I will show you. I can share my screen. Yeah, I mean, everybody's, I sent out the note in the Telegram group that everybody needs to trade this in their own different way.
Mm-hmm.
And the first option that I suggested was to actually take out some of the profit at, that's not a very good line, at 68.66 on the cash. So if we bring the cash into play into the futures, 68.66 was right here. And now we are starting to form what looks like a head and shoulders pattern as well. So the likelihood is the entry is in pretty much the same place as the as on the futures when it comes down to the pattern. So the likelihood is that the original entry price will probably be tested, and it may well be taken out. There might be some appetite for some further buying here, and this is probably a little bit of a difficult play for some people, because they would have taken profit here, move stops to break even. I'll bring the futures back in because you can see where my entries are then. Yeah, take profit down here, move stops to break even, but there's a great chance that those stops are going to get taken out. You know, there's a pretty high probability because of the daily pivot, and then it could turn around and continue in our favor and start to waterfall. So this is where you know, trading has to be a personal. You know, you've got to add your own personality into it, because for some people they'd like to take profit, move stops, and then see what happens, and you know, pretty much hope for the best, because that's almost the trading by numbers. Take profit, move stops to break even. But in this particular scenario, moving stops to break even would not be, in my opinion, that wise. You know, if you're looking for a trade to continue to the downside, and maybe it's not here, maybe it's the monthly pivot that should be the target. But we can revise that if or when we start to break these lows here. So the take profit level, you know, needs to be potentially revised, but in the same way, so does the where you move your stops to. You know, it wouldn't be my preference. It's not necessary advice, because, as I say, it's got to be a personality thing. People have got to feel comfortable with whatever risk they have on the table. And it's my personal preference to not move a stop to break even, because of what's happened to.
You know, there are obvious places not to put your stop, aren't there? Really.
Absolutely, and the daily pivot is one of them. You know, maybe really tight along this line would be fine, but that's probably as high as I'd go. I wouldn't even go to that point because of a potential spike, and then moving down. So that would be my personal preference, and then see if this is going to collapse, because it may not. You know, there may not be a collapse here. It might be that that the market is going to make another run to the upside. This is our daily chart here. This is our daily chart on the FTSE. It might be that the market's going to try and make another run. This here is probably the trend line. And another option is take profit here. See if there's another reversal up here. You know, take all of it off the table. See if there's another reversal up here, and then see if it will come to the downside, rather than, you know, worrying about this, because there's no reason for the market to just travel in a nice straight line up, straight line down, straight line up. In fact, it's probably, you know, it's very unlikely when you see something this obvious. You know, when the left shoulder is that obvious, for the right shoulder to form, you know, so cleanly is much less likely. Probably what's more likely is that we meander a little bit before starting to trickle down. What I'd really like to do is see if the market could just drift down a little further without actually touching this lower line here. You know, it probably will pop up at some point, but I'd still like to see a little bit more of a drift to the downside without really tucking in, and then seeing, rather than taking any profit, actually pretty much hedging the downside trade with an upside trade in this area, and seeing if we can get that one more to the upside, try and take some profit on the buy, keeping the sell on the table, and then seeing if we can get our sell a little bit, you know, further down. That'd be my personal preference. Now, that's going to be a little bit tricky to tame, but I'm going to give it a go. I mean, if it, you know, obviously the charts have to be kind to me, but that's what I'd really like to do. I'd like to see it down here, take a long, keep the short on, see if I can take profit on the long, and then maybe even add to the short, but probably not. Just leave the short on the table, and then see if the short will come into play a little bit later on.
I was going to go the other way. I was going to say, would you consider a hedge above the highs, the recent highs?
Yeah. Up
to
here?
The trend line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you consider entering a hedge there to the trend line and then going the other way? Or keeping the short in, mind you.
Yes, keeping the short in. Yes, I would consider it. In fact, I have considered it, and I have kind of decided not to go down that particular path, because when I look at the risk of that hedge, there is quite a lot in its way. You know, there's this in its way. There's maybe this in its way. So to get back up to the trend line, I think would be difficult. You know, I think that would be a difficult option. And, you know, the other thing that I like about the hedge down here, you know, see if I can keep that one on the table. The other thing I like about this is that means this sell is profitable all the way down here. So even if the market does something really odd, I don't know, keeps going down instead of popping up, then the overall trade is in profit.
Yep.
You know, I wouldn't have got quite as much profit, but you know, if I'm trying to kind of like squeeze as much profit out of it by taking every single bounce, then I've got to take that risk. But if it comes down here and keeps going, yeah, exactly. So you know, if I closed both positions, if it gets down to this point, then it's still a profitable trade from this point to this point. You know, that was with that being the point that I had to buy. If it does what I wanted and it pops up and then pops down, then or let's say it pops up, then it's still the same profit. Anything that happens from this point is still the same profit as this sell from here to here. So that would be much more preferable to me. Is if I could actually get a hedge on while I'm in profit rather than a hedge on here, because at this point I'm not, you know, things aren't going too well there.
Yep.
Now the other thing about that is that I would always hedge if the market is starting to look just a bit too dangerous. You know, if my, let's say I got in a buy down here. I will always hedge if it really starts to accelerate to the downside. I'll keep my buy on the table and I will sell somewhere along this level. But it's not going to be ever my preference, because the problem is when it's down here is that is is starting to get oversold, and up here it's starting to get overbought. So this looks like a high to me and this looks like a low to me. So I don't really want to be sort of buying and selling. I don't want to be buying into a high and I don't want to be selling into a low, but I will do as an insurance policy if things start to really go against me. Because as soon as this bar closes under this level, then you've got a hedge. You haven't got a choice. And as it happened, there's money to be made to the downside, and then it pops back up again. So that's fine. And if price closed above this level, then I may not have, you know, too much of a choice but to hedge. So that would be, you know, that's the only consideration. I will be as plastic on this as I possibly can be, in as much that I will be I'll be quite happy to be malleable and let the charts dictate what I do. But it's never going to be my preference to go and take a long when I believe that I've tried to catch a high by selling.
Well, it sounds like you're going to have a busy afternoon or busy morning.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the thing. I mean, this is the thing with this particular way of trading. It's incredibly involved. You know, it does mean that when things go right, you lose very few trades. But when things go against you, it becomes quite maybe intense is the wrong word, but it's very the workload increases quite significantly.
You got to do your work, mate.
You just got to do the work, yeah. On that point.
Sitting on your bum.
No, but you see, the reason I like this area for another reason I like this area for the take profit is because I like the fact that at no point so far have we really tested this lower line. You know, there's the two bounces. It didn't come down there. Didn't come down again. It started to take off. So at no point. So as this line starts to close in on a decent area of horizontal support, I really like this trend line for a test. So that's the reason I'd like to hold on here, and rather than seeing a potential trade come down and bounce away from me, and possibly bounce away from me for good, who knows? That's the reason. The other reason I quite like to buy here, just in case I don't get that trend line seen. But I'd like to see if I can give myself a chance by holding on and holding out as long as possible. So I think looking for signs and signals in this area is definitely my preference.
Happy days. You mightn't have to wait too long. It might go there very quickly.
Yeah, it may do. I mean, I don't know. I'm not up on the news so far today. What are we at? 50. Oh gosh, we got things starting fairly soon here.
Yes, it's not a big day of news, though, is it? Really? What did I see before?
Trump walks out of border talks. We got that. I don't know whether that's going to have an effect on the market. Interestingly, I mean, there's loads going on with Brexit, obviously. yet again. Interestingly, I think the American negotiator, whoever it was, left China yesterday, so we may get reports on the outcome of that particular meeting as well.
Okay.
I will just flip the news on in the background and see if I can get anything. I'm kind of behind. I completely overslept.
Did you? Did you have a big night?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Do you know what I did actually? I did have a big night. Not a big night in the way that I would like. My daughter has to wear these shoes at night because she was born with talipes, and it's becoming harder and harder to kind of keep them on her. So she woke up last night saying her feet were hurting, and that was at I don't know what time that was. That was probably about 1 this morning. So that was a tricky half an hour. But the key was I wasn't able to get to bed, so that's why it ended up being a big night. It just kind of dragged on quite a long time.
So you didn't get up and have a look at the markets?
No, no, I'm not that bad. I am bad, but I'm not that
bad. Fair call. Well, I was up and looking at the markets because we were doing the morning show, but I couldn't find a trade this morning. It was all about yesterday, I suppose. And
yeah, well, actually, interestingly, your the morning show just about drifts into when I go to bed, because around about midnight my time, you guys seem to be on the morning show, and yeah, I saw your euro dollar trade. I like that. Sounded pretty good. You managed to take a lot of profit on that, didn't you? There was a big old spike.
Well, it was a nice breakout, and that's what we were looking for, obviously. Don't like to trade that close to the highs, but as I said yesterday, when we poked our bib, excuse me, I've got a sneeze. Pardon me. As I said yesterday, when we actually got above the highs, what I thought were the significant highs anyway, and retraced, I thought that was the time to go. If I was wrong, I thought the market would have sunk, but it turns out we got the right signal there, so that was all good. I think there's a chance here. I really do think there's a chance here, but like I said, on the pound yen trade that we took in this show yesterday, we only got TP1, and the volatility kicked back in and prevented us getting any more from that trade. So I've actually moved my stop to a safe place on euro dollar, where we actually cannot. Well, I think we probably lose, a pint of beer or something, and that won't hurt us too much.
Yeah.
But the potential reward here is still good, so we'll hang on.
Difficult with the euro, isn't it? Because it seems like the numbers haven't been too good with the German manufacturing and I don't know if GDP was out, but I think that there seems to be a little bit of tepid fundamentals coming out for the euro, which is kind of odd, really, the way that the euro is reacted.
This is a dollar move. It's not a euro move.
Right.
And that's fine. I don't care. I'm happy either way.
Yeah.
But the Trump situation. I think I said yesterday that no result out of the wall meeting, but the market. I don't know if it was FOMC minutes or the fact that he walked out of this meeting yesterday. I don't know what's made this happen, but certainly there's a sign of dollar weakness today, and overnight there has been. So I'm not sure exactly which line to draw through that.
Yeah, that may well be the walkout. You're absolutely right. It's always difficult with Trump, isn't it, to know exactly what he's done to trigger the disharmony in the market. But he usually would have done something. But that was reported that had happened. Are you up on the Brexit situation?
No idea.
So there was another vote yesterday. Unless yeah, did you have charts to look through anymore, mate, or have you finished that?
Let's hear the news, and I'll look through a couple of charts.
Okay. Yeah. So we got UK open in 1 minute or so. Yeah. So the deal yesterday was that Theresa May was defeated yet again in the Commons. It's been really contentious, actually, because she the bill that was passed by one of her backbenchers. There was an amendment to the EU withdrawal bill, which stated that she would have to come back to Parliament within 3 days and discuss Plan B, tell them what Plan B was if she loses the vote. And the reason that he's done that is because he believes that the government have just been kicking the can down the road. You know, they've been effectively stalling. They've been effectively stalling all these things. They looked like they were meant to have the vote before December, and that looked like they were going to lose. So they decided to kick the can down the road then. And he's getting, you know, a little bit fed up with the fact that the government are treating Parliament with disrespect and you know.
About time. I'm glad somebody is.
Yeah, well, he is. He's standing up for it. But the interesting thing about it was that it was the Speaker, John Bercow, who decides whether the bill can be amended, and he'd already refused some of the Brexiteers an amendment on their bill. So so because of that, there's kind of, you know, there's all this talk that he's biased, and you know, he didn't do the right thing. That wasn't what he did, wasn't really allowed. So yeah, so there was maybe that's a side issue. That is a side issue. That doesn't really kind of give us the you know, any picture on Brexit, and that won't change the pound. The fact that he is yet again under the spotlight isn't really that key, but it is a constitutional scenario that could be fairly significant. You know, the fact that he did that could be fairly significant. I don't really completely understand the detail of it, but there seems to be sort of like quite a lot of people up in arms about the fact that he allowed that amendment, but he didn't allow other amendments. And then there was a picture taken on his car as he was driving away from Parliament, and he's meant to be impartial. Bear in mind, you know, the Speaker's not allowed to be. He's basically the referee in the House of Commons. He's not allowed to have an opinion on Brexit. He's not allowed to have an opinion on the Conservative Party or the Labour Party. He can't really kind of favour anybody. And there was a picture. There was a picture taken of his car.
Although he has to be partisan because he's a member of a party. Yeah.
No, he's not a member of the party. No, no,
isn't he? Oh,
no.
Because they pick from one side in Australia.
Oh no, he was. Yes. Okay, so he would have come from a party. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, but he's not anymore. He's not allowed to be the member of the party anymore.
Resign. Okay.
Yeah, he's got to be completely impartial. His job is to make sure that legislation and the law of Parliament is upheld. That's his job. You know, it's not to have an opinion. And he drove away. Apparently, drove away from somewhere the other day, and they took a picture of his car. And there's a sticker on his car that says "bollocks to Brexit." So it's not really, you know, it's one of those things that, I mean, it's one of those Daily Mail pictures that, you know, it kind of perfectly fits the tabloid's headline. But it's kind of clumsy on his front. He said it's his wife's car. But I like him anyway, John Burke. He's an entertaining character, and I've had no reason to believe that he's anything but trying to do the best for the country. But regardless of any of that, the amendment's been passed. Parliament now has to come back in 3 days after. So the key with that is, does the 16th become now quite as important? You know, because Theresa May is likely to lose that vote. If she doesn't lose that vote, that could make the 15th important. If she does lose the vote, does it make it less important? Because really, then we're waiting for 3 days after to hear what Plan B is.
Yep.
Jeremy Corbyn's calling for a general election. There's the possibility that straight after the vote, there is a vote of no confidence from Jeremy Corbyn, and when we get a general election triggered or asked for from that front, so there's loads and loads unravelling, and lots unravelled yesterday actually in Parliament with this new amendment. Quite a lot has unravelled, so we are we are kind of sitting on our hands to a degree, but we are but there's a lot going on. You know, there's a lot going on, and a lot that will probably unfold next week. So hold on to your hats for now. I don't know what that means for the dollar and whether sorry, for the pound, and I don't know whether we've got any opinion
Well,
on
at
that.
the moment, it's meaning downside. You know,
Downside.
It looks like it anyway.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Well, that would make
disappearing
sense.
fairly
That would make
quickly.
sense
Yep.
because if it's uncertainty more than bad news that creates some downside, then I think we've probably just increased the uncertainty with this this potential vote being passed through.
Interesting. That's given me a new slant on things for the day, I must say, because I was still looking for this higher low on the pound and pound yen to get long. We'll see.
Yeah.
The early days aren't necessarily the way it'll pan out, but certainly at the moment,
No, and this is the difficult thing. It's also about timing, isn't it? Who knows? Maybe that all the stuff that's happening next week will be swept under the carpet until next week when it comes down to trading perspective. Or maybe that it's perceived as positive. I mean, we never really know how these things end up kind of unfolding until they are expressed in the chart. And that's where it becomes difficult. You know, do you still wait for your signal and decide that that's what the market decided, or do you just kind of go, I don't really like it because the you know, the geopolitics on this particular example doesn't sit too well with me.
Yeah, it's kind of that way. I'm just thinking the uncertainty factor is giving me a perspective that says maybe you're just better watching this.
Yeah.
And there's already a response from the buyers. Well, yeah, it may be a volatile day.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah, yeah. That's how it breaks, mate. That's how it breaks.
So, should we take a look at some more? You don't need to do anything to your trade, do you?
No, no. This is absolutely fine. It's going in the right direction. So yeah, let's do that. Let me pass you back the screen.
Happy days. Okay, so the open's been good. Yep. Have I got the screen?
You have indeed.
Okay, so this is cable, and you can see. Okay, we started to tank, but very quickly the breaker's been put on. This started to look like it was going to be fierce, and so did this one. But the daily pivot seems to have a little bit of a hold on price at the moment. We'll see. Difficult now, you know, with that knowledge for me to be thinking the way I was, but there's a few things happening here that do look promising, and this is one of them. And I'm looking at the 4-hour chart. The 4-hour chart is giving me a potential break of the daily pivot at a resistance trend line as well. So a nice confluence area. There's probably also a little bit of a horizontal level across here. It's not great, but there is a bit of a confluence going on here. So what I would be interested in, if this candle were to close round about where its low is at the moment, and then retest both the trend line and the daily pivot, that would signal a potential short for me. Don't know where I'd like to trade that to be fair, if it happened. Let's say the entry was there and the stop was around about there somewhere. So let's say 25 pips. Monthly pivot would be a nice target at 2-1. Why not? So that looks like a good trade if that actually sets up. Pound US dollar short on the 4-hour chart. I'll have a look at that on the smaller time frames as well, see if that's possible to catch earlier. It's drawing a long bow, I've got to say. I'd have to put that trade line in. It's been broken twice, so therefore it's no good to me. What else have I got? Only this one, I suppose. Far riskier trade than the one I was talking about. But if I were to get a low test bar here, I'd have to consider it. There's no real support in the way. underneath this trend line. So it might not be so bad. We'll have a look at that. So that's cable. It might be possible, but I'll say this, that anything that I do put on cable today will be very, very small risk, as it was yesterday. And I think that's probably a wise thing to do under the current situation. Now, the Aussie, I've been looking to get long the Aussie, but it won't give me the retracement that I'm looking for. And as I said yesterday, maybe this was the swing or the higher low that I was looking for, but it's not. It really isn't. What I'm looking for is something far deeper than that, far more pronounced. But maybe I'm just out of luck here and can't get in, or maybe I'm in luck and I don't need to get in and the Aussie will crash. I don't know, but certainly I'm not getting the signal that I want. And until that happens, again, I'll stay on the sidelines. Is there any suggestion here that this could do something else? Look, there's the slightest hint through here that we have had a false break, and this would be the candle that I'd seek to trade. But we're sitting right on the monthly pivot, and my entry would be right on the monthly pivot. Maybe I could sneak this underneath this bar. Let me have a look at that. If I entered there, you can see this is a level. This is a real level. I'll put that line in there. Bang on the monthly pivot. Yeah, I don't like it. If I entered there, put my stop there, it's 53 odd pips. The reward's pretty good on that, nearly 3 to 1. Don't know. I don't like the monthly pivot. It's more likely to bounce along here, and that's the thing. But it is a little setup for the Aussie short. I think I've got to think this long about it. I don't need to trade it, and that's probably where I'm at. So let's just take that on board, and that would be the entry there underneath this bar, and I'd put my stop above this one with about a 55 pip risk. But I'm going to wait and see if I can get what I need. Although, hang on a second. Let me rethink that. I can take profit there. Yeah, look, maybe this is worth a little go, mate. Maybe it is. 4-hour chart. Let's put a little bit of money on the table. New order. Entry short here will be at 71.45. It'll be a pending order. Look, again, very, very small risk. Quarter of a lot will be just fine. It is a sell stop. And the level will be at 71.45. Why is that not doing what it's supposed to? There we go. 7145 is the entry, and the stop loss will be 71.95. Okay. And we'll leave it at that. So don't get me wrong here. I'm not bearish the Aussie in any way, shape or form, but I'm still looking for this higher low. And I think we can maybe look for that down here somewhere. And I'm willing to take that small risk. I'll take my first profit, as I said. round about here. Make it there. So that's going to be, actually I'm going beyond where I need to here. Take my first profit here at 25 pips. So around about the 21 mark right there. And our target will be and we'll take profit 2 there at 70.72, and our target will be here. Let me say 70.03. Okay. TP1 at 71.21, TP2 at 70.72, and all out at 70.03. That should give us a reasonable. Why is my entry there? $71.45, wasn't it? Was that the entry? Let me see. Yep, 71.45. Okay. Selling the Aussie, very, very small amount on the table though. Okay. Let's have a little look at pound yen, see what it's doing. Again, I'm still looking for that that higher low, same as the Aussie, exactly the same, but I don't see a trade here, that's for sure. Weekly pivot test would be awesome, and a reversal off there. Euro yen. Euro yen is looking similar to what we saw back here. On the Aussie, in that we've had a little break of a trend line, had consolidation, come back underneath, and then we've had a big bull bar to retest the high here, which is at this point failed. This is very similar, although we haven't had a bull bar go back yet, although we haven't really had a clean break either. So this needs to be a clean break back and then a retest of the trend line and the daily pivot. Then we can look to trade that short as well. Aussie yen. Why was I looking at Aussie yen? There'll be a reason. Probably that bar there. But I don't see this as a trade. And the reason is, where's the resistance? And I don't see any there. Maybe up here, maybe here somewhere. So I'm not willing to trade that at the moment. But I just wanted to point that out, I think. Dollar yen, this is showing how weak the dollar is at the moment. Certainly against the yen being strong. But if you compare the Aussie to the dollar, that's the difference. The Aussie is holding its own at the moment against the yen, but the dollar is crashing and finding a little bit of support at the weekly pivot. EuroCAD is another one I wanted to have a look at. Reasoning, or the reason is, and let's go back to Forex Factory for just a tick. Yesterday, we had the situation where there was an interest rate announcement on the CAD, but I didn't notice that this had changed. They were forecasting a rate rise on the CAD, I'm sure up until yesterday, but that somehow has changed. And indeed, they didn't raise interest rates. And I expected that the CAD would move on the back of that because the market, in my opinion, had priced in a raise on the CAD. But if we go back and have a look at, let's say dollar CAD, for instance, nothing much happened. I mean, I know that's the daily chart, but we got a bit of a rally on the back of nothing, but it really stopped at the immediate resistance. Do you know anything about that, mate, as to why that might have, the economist might have thought differently?
Yeah, it was a strange one, that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't notice it. I didn't notice it till today when I had a look at the result. I didn't notice it had changed, or the forecast had changed.
Oh no, I didn't actually. Let's have a look at that.
And then I had a look at oil coming back to the daily pivot only, though. That's the FTSE, not oil. Where's the oil? So we're expecting oil to come off probably a bit earlier than it has, but it hasn't come off that far yet. Daily pivot may be holding. So
no, interesting area though, isn't it? I mean, it's another fairly classic looking neckline.
Yeah, yes, it is, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
And if you go to the daily chart,
yes,
you can see that even clearer.
Yes, that's what I've got. I've got a fairly classic looking neckline off that daily chart. Interesting with this. I'll just bring this over to you as well. Yeah, interesting that we've got this. I think on the daily. If we sort of bring this into the daily, and looks like we've got some sort of level here. Is it there? I have it. Just check. Green bar, which is this one. Yeah, this is the level I thought was quite interesting, because it kind of gives us these. Let's make sure I've got the start of the line here. Yeah, so if this is the range here that it seems to be kind of within, it might be a little bit, it might be more like that actually with these two touches here. But if this is the range, then as we come across here, price is just above that, and maybe oil isn't to fall, you know, that little bit further. If the range actually pops up a little bit, it's even more interesting, because it kind of leads us to where we are. You know, maybe a dip down around the daily pivot could actually promote some upside. So I find oil quite an interesting chart. I mean, again, you know, it's one of those ones that we have to look at these on the longer term time frames. You know, sometimes daily looks okay on that. Let's have a look at the 4 hourly. 4 hourly is embedded up here, so that would suggest that there could be a, you know, something of some downside, something of maybe even a vicious move to some downside. And it's another one of those that you know, similar to the FTSE, hasn't really tested a lower trend line, you know, on the third occasion. So you kind of look for that, or I certainly do anyway. I look for a third touch when I start to see these trend lines, and it can take a little while. There's no guarantee that it's going to come back for a while, but at some point it's going to come down here and either go through it or bounce from it. So that's another reason that I think oil is probably headed a little bit lower. Now, if that was to kind of happen fairly soon, you know, over the month, let's say, then it you know, it may well be that we see this this monthly pivot here. And switching back to the daily, what does that give us? Not quite as low as that. Not quite as low as that that shoulder line there, that's for sure. That's the area there. So if it is that would suggest if the trend line's to be seen, that it'd be more like next week. If the left shoulder and the right shoulder are actually going to be genuine patterns. This left shoulder is quite long. It's got quite a few bars there, so I'm not sure whether that is even the pattern we're looking at. But I would like to see it sucked back into this trend line or this lower level before looking for the longs in oil. So for me, I would look for some weakness in oil. You know, whether this level here would play a part, I don't know. I don't even know whether that's a genuine line or not, but it may play a part in as much that it could hold it up a little bit. But I'd like to see this genuinely dip back down again at some point this month.
Yeah, I agree. Short to get long is my key.
Yeah, which actually, yeah, I mean, if it is the case that it's short to get long, Just thinking about how oil can play a part in the FTSE, then maybe that's going to be the same thing. You know, maybe the FTSE's a short to get long scenario. Maybe we're looking down here just so we can bounce again. And I'm not against that. You know, I certainly, to a degree, I kind of do subscribe to that philosophy, because this the same thing for me is in existence here, where I've got this level down here that hasn't been touched a third time. And I'd like to see it touched a third time. And if it was, I probably would look for a long. You know, if things do pan out that way. And the other thing that I can't discard as well is that, you know, every now and again you get where's that gone? Every now and again you get patterns within patterns, and I think that we could be looking here at the potential for you know, this to come down here. This is a head and shoulders pattern. I don't know if I've kind of said this already, but this here is a head and shoulders pattern. Now the measured move, I've just done a measured move on this head and shoulders pattern, and it's not that exciting, and it doesn't really give us a in fact, I'll do it here as well, just so everybody can see what I'm doing.
Thought about you very near the weekly pivot there.
This is my monthly pivot here.
Oh, monthly pivot, sorry.
Yeah. You know, do you know what, when I looked at it,
the weekly pivot, the white one?
Yes, the weekly pivot down here. Okay, maybe you're talking about something different. You can let me show you what I just want to change this color. I've never liked red on the chart of black. That's better. So what I've got is a left shoulder. Where have you gone? I'm not sure what's going on there. Looks like I got two squares here. That's my head. This is my left shoulder. And over here will be my right shoulder. So that's the potential pattern here.
Mm-hmm.
Now with that, it gives us a measured move. Of the monthly pivot. Yes, sorry, mate. Do you know what it was? The monthly pivot. So if this breaks out, it's going to give us that monthly pivot. Do you know the reason it wasn't working? Is because the key thing with the FTSE is because I was doing it on cash. So when we look at this on cash rather than the futures,
it's different. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't actually give us a measured move. Come here. And it should do, really, because it should be the same price ranges, just shown in a slightly different area. But when we do the measured move on this one, come on, it takes us quite a bit short of the monthly pivot. Yeah, so that's why it wasn't really working out. But yeah, as you see, you're right to say that. So, but the real key for me is that we have the head and shoulders pattern here, and also what I'm looking at is for this little head and shoulders to work out and give us that monthly pivot, but also this become a potential for a left shoulder, and this being the head, and then we get a potential for a right shoulder somewhere along there. Now, given that would suggest to me that we possibly have to come down to this trend line just so we can then pop back up again. You know, whether it stops here is another matter. So in actual fact, I wouldn't mind looking for longs here, even if it's not going to go through. I'd like to see if it pops at least to give us this equal high here. which would give us a fairly good profit, you know, if we can get in fair, you know, if I can get in, I should say, near this low area. So so I'd like to see price down here just so I can look for those longs. So it's one of those scenarios that it is really looking for a short to look for a long right now anyway. You know, in the same way that this was look for a long to go short.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
that was.
You know what? When you think about the volatility in the market at the moment, it's not such a bad idea.
No, I don't think it is. No, I actually.
These things.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think the FTSE 100, you know, particularly, has been you know, very much crowned by that over the last few months. It's been difficult, but difficult to trade on genuine signals and genuine indicators. But actually, when it comes down to levels, it's behaved as long as you were looking for that particular pattern. Because that was you know, that's the challenge, is that do you look for trend or do you look for range, and when to do that? Because when it came down to the FTSE was doing this this thing where it was trending and then ranging for a while, and then trending, and then, well, we had a little range down here, then now it's popped back up again. So it's been yeah, it's been a little bit difficult actually. It's been a little bit tricky, but as long as you were looking for those ranges in here, and when things started to break down, that you know, you were looking for the trends, then the FTSE it hasn't been too bad. But trying to look for indicators along those kind of situations and scenarios is very difficult, because this will just cause an indicator to embed. You know, an indicator just doesn't get a chance to catch up. So it's been a bit of a challenge, but kind of a lot of fun to trade as well at the same time. I've enjoyed trading the FTSE these last few months.
Cool. Mate, we've got new 30-minute candles. Should I take
Great.
a look? We're going straight to the Aussie, and it's interesting. Not sure it's compelling, but it's interesting. Break of a resistance trend line, put in a triple high, come back underneath the trend line, and retested it. The only thing that's annoying me here is the daily pivot, and it's very close, almost too close. The one thing that's okay about it is it's been broken and retested, or and rebroken, if you like, already today. So I'm kind of inclined to. Where's my entry on the 4 hour is the question. It's at 71.45. So 71.45 is, well, I can see it here. That's the red line, isn't it? It's way down here. So I'll be well in profit by then. I think I'm willing to take this again at a very small price or very small risk.
It's the Aussie.
Do it. Yep. Let's try again. So I'm loading up against the Aussie short, and I'm long biased. Am I crackers or what? Okay. You got to trade what you see. It's simple as that.
Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it?
Self-stop at this time, our level is going to be 71.80. Bang on there. It can't be right. That's where price is. The low of that bar is 71.70, sorry. 71.70. And the stop loss will be above that bar at 71.84. I'll add spreads to that. 71.86 will be our stop loss. Okay, and again, very, very light we're going in. So order in. Now, depending on what happens here, if we stall at the daily pivot, I will look to close part of this. But normally I would be looking for profit in around about this area. So I'll put it just underneath the daily pivot. I'll make it yellow so we know which is which. Okay, so that's TP1. That's entry. $71.70. I might take the lot off at monthly pivot, I think. So we'll just exit there at 71.50. It's only 20 pips as against a 25 pip risk. That's okay. I'm okay with that. All right, so entry is at 71.70, first take profit 71.63, and target is 71.50. Righto, there's our 30-minute on the Aussie. What else is happening? Euro retracing as expected. Pound, yeah, trying to halt the rot, it would appear, but yeah, I've got no confidence in that now, I've got to say. Pound yen's going to be the same, if not worse. Yeah, I guess the good thing about that is the potential for this significant higher low here is still there, but that's about all I can say for it. I think we're going to leave the yen pairs alone, actually, because it looks as though they are going south in a hurry. Euro CAD, I was looking for a lower high around about the pivot area. That hasn't happened. Yeah, that's about it, mate, really, I think.
So did you have you gone short the Aussie?
On the 30-minute and the 4-hour, yes.
Yeah, because that's interesting, isn't it? You're just saying about the yen strengthening, and I have to say the FTSE's a little bit tepid. It's not really kind of it's not really a nice flowing chart with lots of lovely price action going any specific direction here. It's just I mean, it's a little bit weaker, but it's not really kind of moving. And the fact that it's been held up in the way that it has suggests that it might be kind of a choppy old day today.
Yeah, the only thing that's really moving appears to be the pound in currencies.
Yeah. And with Theresa May continuing to lose votes, that's not a major surprise.
I guess not.
Because it just,
having a lot of interest other than the euro and the Aussie at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and you say, I mean, I haven't even checked the news, actually. I'm going to quickly have a look.
It's a pretty quiet old day. We've got Powell speaking later, much later.
Okay, so French industrial PMIs didn't come out too well. How did that affect the euro? Italian sales we haven't had.
I don't think the euro's been affected by too much at all. I think we've just got a natural consolidation / potential retracement going on at the moment. I don't see anything untoward happening. I mean, after this bar, you've got to expect consolidation, if not retracement. And I'd certainly be expecting a daily pivot test today.
Yeah, looks like GDP from the UK with manufacturing production maybe have some sort of significance. Certainly on the FTSE, I would suspect. But I think it's going to be kind of choppy today, mate. I don't really see. If we're in trades, I think that's absolutely fine, and I think it's better just to kind of manage what we have and not try and squeeze in. I mean, I think there's been a few trades already this week. I think there's been a few days where there's been opportunities this week. So to only have one so far this week where there's been no opportunities, actually quite refreshing. You know, oftentimes you're getting most of the week like it is today, where it's just a little bit choppy, and all you can do is really manage.
Yeah, I'm just trading these two on pure setups, and that's all, and very, very light because of exactly as you say. I don't think there's a whole lot to be confident about in the market right now.
Interesting. There's the headline from Reuters: Sterling to make solid gains this year if Brexit path smooth. I mean, do you need to be a genius to write that headline? It's like, yeah, really?
They get paid to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they have given some a little bit more meat on the bone. Sterling is likely to gain more than 8%, they believe, this year, assuming that Britain and the European Union part ways amicably, according to a Reuters poll of foreign exchange strategists. So 8% would be. It's interesting that they've put sterling is gain more than 8%, because obviously as trading against different currencies, I suppose they mean that it is going to be the standout for the year if it has something stellar.
I think that's quite fair if Brexit is smooth.
Yeah. Britain's departure from the EU in less than 3 months. Yeah, I mean the one thing is that I'm glad it's finally upon us. That's the only kind of refreshing aspect of this. It's been.
I can't wait. Let's over, mate. I really can't wait.
No, me neither. Me neither.
It just adds certainty to your trading. That the currencies in particular for me, of course. Pound and euro. I mean, euro is my favourite currency. But it hasn't been that easy to trade through all this Brexit bullshit.
No.
It
has been
easier than it used to be.
Yeah, it's been a nightmare, isn't it? But I mean, I was going to say that the end is nigh, but I don't know whether it is. As I was saying yesterday, you've kind of got the potential for a second referendum. You've got a potential for a general election. You've got a potential for the. You see, this is the other thing, that they could get an extension on Article 50, which is going to make the whole thing even worse. And that's when another thing that Dominic Grieve, the parliamentarian who brought this amendment through, was kind of saying that all these options just give the government the ability and option just to kick it down the road, and he's not keen on that, which is fair. So that's what that will do. If we get an extension of Article 50, it is basically just kicking it down the road, isn't it? So nobody really wants to see that.
Again and again and again.
And again and again and again. Yeah, exactly. That's yeah.
It really is unbelievable. It'll make a great movie one day, because it'll be a comedy.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of dramas on it. I mean, I honestly, I was thinking yesterday, I can't believe the British public have been. I mean, the MPs have messed it up, to be fair. I do put the blame firmly at their doorstep, but I can't really believe the British public was so short-sighted, with all this thing, and got so romanced with with such a cynical nation, to be so romanced by the unicorns that were on offer. It's just odd. It was just a really odd thing. It was not what I expected, really. From the British public to kind of do what they did and vote to leave the EU, not having thought that this carnage would happen. And that's the thing. It's not about your beliefs on it. It's like, when you look at it, you go, do we really want the hassle of leaving the EU? And I can't understand how people couldn't have thought, even not knowing the detail. I can't have. What's that mean?
I said, what hassle? It's been a seamless process so far.
Yeah.
Not.
Yeah. It's just it's just that's the aspect that surprised me anyway. It did not so much the vote. It did surprise me a little bit on the vote, but it surprised me more that people were that short-sighted, where they sort of thought, yeah, we're going to leave the EU, get new trade deals, we're going to sort out immigration, and it's going to be a land of milk and honey from here on in. And then 2 years down the line, they're like, just give us the vote back because we prefer to stay in and stop all this rubbish that's going on.
Yes. What on earth have we done?
Yeah. I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people are basically kind of going, I did not know it was going to be like this, and you sort of go, did you not? You know, even not knowing, you know, even not knowing that.
History is absolutely littered with people who said, what did I do that for?
Yeah.
What was I thinking, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, do you know, yeah, it's and you know the interesting thing about this, I was gonna sort of talk about the agricultural revolution, because that's really the start of the point that I would map back to that happening when they decided that farming was a good idea rather than being hunter gatherers, which I think was a much more fulfilled lifestyle from what I gather, rather than being married to one place, having to watch a farm full of corn or whatever else. I think going out and hunting a wildebeest or in those days a hairy mammoth would be far more fun and challenging. Never mind the fact you might get your head taken off, but it's still a bit of a bit of an adrenaline. So yeah, I think it started with the agricultural age, but
the agricultural age is probably one of the worst things that industrial revolution thrown in as well, of course.
Yeah,
with all the pollution. But agriculture has got it completely wrong also.
Yeah.
Because to maintain the viability of the land, that they continue to plow and plow and plow and plow and plow and plant. They now add that much chemical to the land just to get it crop up. And then when the crop gets up, or even before the crop gets up, they've got to spray it with pesticides. And all of this gets into the water supply.
Yeah.
And guess what happens? In Australia at the moment, the Darling River, which is the lifeblood of Western New South Wales, if you like, even beyond there, is just about running backwards, because we're pumping water at such a rate at certain times to water cotton, which is a very big user of pesticides and herbicides and all the rest of it as well. That's getting into the river, and we've got a fish called a cod here, a Murray River cod. The Murray Darling system is tied into in the lifeblood of New South Wales, really, and certainly the other side of the mountain range. And we've got fish that are like 50 years old, 60 years old, dying in their millions because of the river pollution. You'll hear more about this. It's just starting to hit the headlines now, but this has been happening for, well, not millennia, for a long time now, and we're really paying the price for that. And you just cannot bring those things back.
Yeah, and this is the thing, you know, and just to kind of bring it back to Brexit, it is that kind of thing where the human decisions sometimes just go too far. You know, it's too late. The as I said, the agricultural revolution was kind of a bad idea and a miscalculation, but it's too late to go back. The same thing is really going on with Brexit if they decide to eventually leave the EU. It's getting to the point where history has now decided that it's too late to walk back the mistake, and it could be a mistake that's about to happen. You know, it's, obviously the discussion about what the human race is doing to nature is a side one, and it kind of makes me feel a bit kind of sick in my stomach when I think about it. But it seems to be a common theme with decisions that people make, doesn't it?
Unbelievable. Time and time again. We don't learn a thing.
No.
Learn a thing.
No, it's and you know, I mean, not to kind of go too far into all this, but
yeah, we're getting fairly philosophical.
I think we should change this show. It shouldn't really be a trading show at all.
Well, we've got our trades. All we need to do is manage our trades now.
Yeah, yeah, this is true. Yeah, we're just chewing the fat, really, aren't we? And I was about to mention Rome. And the fact that you know, when it comes down to it, I always thought wars were created by a lack of food, but actually, when you start to think, hold on a minute, who funded these wars? And then you realise that the people that funded the wars didn't have a lack of food, so it doesn't really come down to that. But yeah, the point of greed is and it's strange, isn't it? When the human race has what they've gone out to get, their desires, you know, there's all these things that we're trying to create to make our lives easier. When we have what we have, when we have the desires that we've gone out to possess, then that is when the tension really kicks in. Because you know the Roman Empire was so affluent, but then all of a sudden there's kind of civil war because everybody's going, hold on a minute, I want a little bit more of this, so there's a bickering. The bickering starts, and then all of a sudden you get Mark Antony being stabbed in the back. So yeah, I don't know where it's I don't know where it all ends, mate, and I don't know how we fix it all. But if we
we need to start fairly soon because we're running really out of time with resources, and we're wrecking the planet.
Yeah, well, isn't there talk now of this new Z pill where they've come up with this Z pill, which is an anti-aging pill, which means that human beings are going to live even longer.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
120
strain on resources.
Yeah, yeah, 120 years old they might live till now.
So that's where Branson and Musk, not Musk, what's his name? Elon.
Yeah, it is Elon Musk. Yeah.
Musk. Yeah. That's what they're doing, eh? They're going to take all the 120-year-olds to Mars.
Well, there'll be one of them probably. There'll be one of them by the time they get there. But yeah, it's those guys that are funding a lot of this, isn't it? Those really kind of wealthy billionaires want to kind of hang on a little bit longer. So a lot of those guys are funding the scientific developments in immortality. So you know that imagine immortality. Imagine nobody goes anywhere.
I don't want to see the result of what's going on here. I really don't.
Yeah. Take me now.
Yeah. Well, a little bit longer. I've got to get the bamboo up first.
Yeah. Is that a euphemism? Well, I guess you know we've kind of we've chewed the fat. We've got philosophical, and we've been a bit carry on as well. Where are we at now, mate? What are we doing for the last 10 here? Are we just giving a quick wrap up?
Yeah, I've got nothing to do, mate. On as I say, the two very small positions I've got on the Aussie, one on the 30-minute, one on the 4-hour. They'll remain. I might have to manage the Aussie 30 fairly rapidly because if it plays around daily pivot, I might have to just get out of that. So be cautious of that, guys. Again, if you are if you're following my 30-minute trades, make sure you cancel the order if 6 candles expire prior to entry, because that's a golden rule of mine. And that's really about it for me. The euro. Let's hope the euro continues its rally up to where have I got my second take profit at 115.95, so just below the 116 mark. I'm expecting a daily pivot test here today, and then a bounce hopefully. And really that's it. I'm still waiting on higher lows, significant higher lows on pound yen, euro yen, and Aussie yen. If that happens, fine. I won't trade them all. I'll probably pick the best of those. The strongest currency at the moment seems to be the euro. So we may be looking at euro yen. We'll see.
Great stuff, mate. Okay, well, as for this FTSE trade, anybody that's in it, we are probably looking for the monthly pivot area to take profit. There's a couple of different patterns going on here: left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and the measured move of the head and shoulders leads us down to this monthly pivot. There's also this rising wedge that I've just started to draw in as well. The rising wedge, actually, measured move on this one is the base area. So this actually could be just a little lower. I'll bring this in here. This could actually take us. That was the breakout point. So that takes us a little bit lower, which somewhere around about that weekly pivot. So there is reason to suggest that if either of these two patterns play out, there's some further downside. We are at the neckline, and head and shoulders patterns don't often play out. They play out less often than they do play out. But remember, that's the head and shoulders patterns that are counted are also the ones that happen in the middle of trends. Whereas this one is happening in the right area. It's happening at the top of a trend. It's my favorite type of head and shoulders, this as well, which I haven't mentioned actually. But when you get a right shoulder, this increases the probability of the head and shoulders working out. When you get a right shoulder that is a lower high, which obviously the right shoulder by definition is a lower high. But when you get the right shoulder, which is a lower high, which is also a break of a trend line, then you really do have a pretty powerful pattern. And as I say, it's my favorite. It's my favorite type of head and shoulders when you see that. And if anybody wants to trade head and shoulders patterns just on their own, this is well worth looking for. You know, the one that actually also
as well, because it is at the top of a rally. So
yes, absolutely. When you sort of stack up where you're looking for the pattern, then absolutely, because it's at the top of the rally, it does add extra validity to it. But then when you add the break of and back test, breaking a back test of a trend line, then it really starts to add some power to that pattern. So I really like this, and I don't see any point right now. Obviously, I've advised people to trade at a few different ways. When I was sending this out with the Telegram group, I advised people to trade the conservative way and a little bit more aggressively. I'm a lot more aggressive than that, or I am certainly on this occasion. Where now I'm in the trade, I'm not going to take any profit until I get at least to this monthly pivot. So if it pops up again, I will hit it again to the downside. I'm not too worried about it getting me back up here or even too far beyond. Which again, back to that hedging question, I wouldn't look to hedge up here. If anything, I'd look to add the next high and see if I can cut down, because my belief is that this needs to come down a little bit before it genuinely creates that bottom. So I'm hitting this as much as possible, and I'm going to ride this as much as possible. So down here, or what's that, mate? Sorry,
I say good stuff.
Yeah.
You're a confident lad. Excellent.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's more the fact that I'm okay with it because I will manage the I mean, I haven't gone into why. I'm okay with playing it that way because it's very it's a little bit complicated even for me to think about, never mind explain. But if it pops up and it keeps going, then I'll just hedge it, because it, and this is what I've been working on for a while, and we've been talking about for a while. So my confidence doesn't come from the fact that I've got blind belligerence that it's coming down. It's more the fact that I'm okay with how I'm going to manage it if it doesn't come down.
I like it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's wrap up then, mate. We're only a few minutes off as it goes. No shows later, is there?
Yes, there is. The original show is on tonight. Yeah.
Original show. I'm not sure if I'm meant to be part of that. Are you part of
that? Yeah, I'm part of that.
Okay. What time is that?
Now you're testing me. I've got strategy lead coaching at in an hour from now, and it starts half an hour after that, so it's an hour and a half.
Okay, an hour and a half. Okay, so 10:30 my time. Okay, well I'll pop in and join you for a little while.
Yeah, I think you're in there.
Oh, am I? Oh, so I'm scheduled to pop in and join you, is what I meant. Yeah.
I think did you go in last night?
No, I didn't get a link.
Oh, okay.
Which I figured meant that...
I noticed in Skype Chloe was looking for you. So.
Was she?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
So you better pop in and say good day tonight.
Oh, yes, I will. Do you know what? I didn't see that at all. She didn't. Oh, yes, I see that now. 10:31. She said, "Are you coming in today?" Yeah. Do you know what? I looked in my email, and because I didn't get a link, I thought maybe I wasn't invited, so I didn't bother going. Don't have to be fair. I didn't look that hard. But, yeah.
I'm happy. I'm good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I have got a link this time.
There you go. Then I will see you in an hour and a half.
All right, buddy. Yeah. Speak to you in an hour and a half.
Everyone else, if they're not in the show, have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next Monday.
I've just found the link for yesterday. Yeah. All right. See you later.
Whoops.
You didn't hear that.
Hooroo.